employee and member of the social committee.
Will you please join me in your tradition of attitude prayer? Almighty Creator, remember your artists. Have mercy upon them and remember with compassion all those that reflect the good, the ill, the strengths, and the weaknesses of the human spirit. Remember those who raise their voices in unending song, and those who pour their souls into music of all kinds, loud and soft, slow and fast, melodic and atonal. Remember those who put pigment to surface, carve wood and stone and marble, who work base metals into beauty, and those building upwards from the earth toward heaven. Remember those who put thought to paper by computer and by pen, the poets who delve, the playwrights who analyze and proclaim, the dreamers of narrative, all those who work with the light and shadows of film. Remember the actors moved by spirit and dancers moving through space and time. Remember all these artists whom you have placed among us, for are they not, O Creator, the fellows of your inspiration? Do they not bring to all people a great proof of your divinity and our small part in it? Remember your artists and show them mercy and compassion that they may do the same and so uplift all the people of the earth, that everyone, near and far, together and alone, may cry forth your praises as we do here. Amen.
Amen.
Beautiful, Cynthia, thank you. To lead us in the pledge of a four-way text is Tracy Holiday, retired executive director, Cabbage Patch Settlement House.
So if you're watching the Olympics, you're seeing lots of flags. You know, they represent the athletes, that are competing, they also represent the nations. Our pledge says, we're not just pledging for the flag, it's pledging for the public.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On now. As we say the four-way test, would you pause with me for a few seconds between each one in order to have some time to think, because it says right there, these are the things we think, say, or do. So let's think a little bit. So first,
It is the truth.
second,
It is fair to all concerned.
third,
Will build it.
and last.
All concerned.
Thank you.
Rotary, you may be seated. Request from the restaurant to please park in legal parking spaces. Try not to park in safety zones, if you will. Second note is, some of you are continuing to wear your masks, even though you are fully vaccinated, and that's okay. If you, with things progressing as they are, if you feel as if you need to wear a mask or you want to wear a mask, that's fine. I don't think you have to wear it as long as you're sitting and eating, but if you want to wear a mask to meeting, that's just fine. All right, now it's always our pleasure to welcome guests, Rotarians. If you would like to come to the microphone and introduce yourself first, and then your guests. Yes, please stand to be recognized.
Good afternoon, President Jean and fellow Rotarians. I'm pleased to welcome Brian Eugene as my guest. Brian is the Kentucky Regional Channel Manager for IT and Telecom for Spectrum.
Hi, President Jean. I'm Charlie Farnsley with Bach Farnsley Advisors. I'm pleased to introduce my two guests today. I have my wife, Mindy Farnsley, who's a Vice President at Preferred Benefits, and my dad, Doug Parnsley, who's an attorney at Stites and Hartson.
Good afternoon, President Gene J. Mallory, Executive Vice President of Quest. And my guest today is Mike Tandy, and Mike's Vice President Commercial Lending with Chase. And I believe going to be a new member very soon, right, Mike? Put him on the spot.
Hello, my name is Delene Taylor with DMLO CPAs. I am Chair of the Speakers Committee. And my guest is Keith Miller. He comes to us from San Francisco, but has ties to Bellarmine. And his consulting is helping companies with branding and all that goes with promoting your business. So if you haven't met him yet, please take a moment to get introduced.
Gene, I'm Rick Hyden, and I'm very proud today to introduce my beautiful and extremely patient wife.
Rachel volunteer for the WFTL campaign. It's always good to have her here. Now, Rotarians, if you want to learn, or guests, if you want to learn more about our club, please stay after the meeting for a brief What is Rotary session with Craig Sherman over here, the guy with a really lovely pink jacket in the back. He will help you. Rotarians in the news. Denise Sears is CEO of Supplies Overseas, or SOS, and they are providing free medical supplies to more than 50 teachers across Kentucky that will help students get a more hands-on learning experience. Each teacher receives supplies valued between $500 and $1,000. So thank you, Denise, for all that your company does to make a positive difference for Kentucky students. It was featured on WDRB TV this week. It's Denise here. I think she had something to do today, so thank you, Denise. I want to bring your attention to, again, the QR code flyers on your table. Tomorrow, Friday, is the deadline to reserve your seat for next week's meeting. Whether you plan to have lunch or not, you must be registered by tomorrow. So registering today is the best way to get that taken care of. We want to give a special thanks to these folks who served the meal at Recenter Ministries yesterday. A thank you to David Snyder, Craig Mooney, who brought his wife Melanie and their two teenage children, Nick and April or Aubrey, Graham Donovan, Rudy Mueller, Harry Seeger, and Larry Sloan. These are Rotarians in action. So thank you for your service, Rotarians. Let's give them a And now it's time for a Cajun culture class. Who can pronounce this phrase and tell me what it means? Oh, you don't count. You know, I know you know. All right. All right. It means let the good times roll. Now, I have to tell you, nobody at home actually says this. So if you're down there and this pops out of your mouth, they'll know you're a tourist or you've had too many hurricanes and battle riots. Okay, so. All right, you get a prize. Dick gets a prize. You get a prize. To introduce today's guest speaker is Mike Kull, Wealth Management Advisor with Northwestern Mutual, member of the Speakers Committee, and a Paul Harris Fellow. You're Mark. Yeah.
All right. Mike's the less handsome of the Kulls at the Longest Club. Good afternoon, everyone. I am thrilled to introduce Andre Chemo Stone Guest, who's our speaker today. He's the president and CEO of the Fund for the Arts, where he's working to maximize the impact of the arts on economic development, education, and quality of life for everyone by generating resources, inspiring excellence, and creating community connections. Fund for the Arts is the regional arts agency and the largest funder of arts in the greater Louisville region. Man, he has an impressive background. He's got 25 years of executive experience. He served as the CEO of the August Wilson Center for African American Culture in Pittsburgh. He's been the vice president and producer for jazz at the Lincoln Center in New York City. He's been the vice president of the Lincoln Foundation here in Louisville. I could go on in this bio because it's impressive, but just some of the places that he has been featured have been USA Today, the Courier Journal, The Root, The Griot, and ESPN's Undefeated. In a bizarre turn, he received a BS in economics with a minor in actuarial mathematics. So at some point there was a pivot to the arts. But more impressive, he finished coursework and completed the comprehensive examinations for a PhD in urban and public affairs. Him and his wife Cheryl have 4 children, Kenethia, Winton, Kennedy, and Morgan, and they're empty nesters who live in their forever home in St. James Court in Old Louisville. So that's all the formal stuff. But yesterday, I got a hold of Miss Cheryl Guess, his wife of 31 years. I only ask sweet questions. I asked her the 3 words that if you could only describe Andre in 3 words, what would those be? And she said smart, witty, and personable. I asked her, what makes Andre so special? And she said, after 31 years, I'm so amazed that he is who he says he is, and there's absolutely no pretense. And then the final question I asked her is, what do you admire most? And she said, he can go flawlessly from a boardroom to a party. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome your new president and CEO of the Fund for the Arts, Andre.
So my question is, what is it? Is the boardroom or parties or somewhere in between? I need to know so I can get my vibe together. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Gene. As you heard, my name is Andre Chemo Stone Guess, and I am an artist. I'm a writer. I'm a storyteller. And it took me a long time to come to grips with being able to say that out loud. But you also know me as the president and CEO of the Fund for the Arts. And as Mark says, I had a pretty circuitous route to standing before you with that title. I'm proud to call myself a Smoketown. I'm from Smoketown, the oldest African-American neighborhood in the city, where my family goes back over 100 years. It is on the shoulders of my grandparents that I stand before you here today. And as a young Smoketownian, in the 1st grade, I went to Booker T. Washington Elementary School, which is right down the street from where I grew up, which is now Mazik. And my 1st grade teacher, Miss Dixon, said, "You're the smartest kid I ever taught." I don't know whether that was true or not, but I believe it. And she told me, you could be anything you want to be. And one day she took me to see her husband, who is a physician. And so I was looking forward to one day calling myself a doctor. And I took all the math and science courses I could take to prepare myself to be a doctor. And right after I graduated from Louisville Male Traditional High School at Brooklyn, you got any Bulldogs in the house? There we go. Oh, there's some great Bulldogs, no matter where you go. I went on to Boston University in a 6-year medical program. And I found out very quickly that I no longer wanted to call myself a doctor. So I came back to Louisville and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I said, you know what, I'll major in economics. Now I'm committed. But then I found out about the actuarial sciences, so I minored in actuarial math because I found out if you pass one of those exams, you guarantee yourself a job. So I leaned heavily on that math and science background with the math. And I passed one of the exams and I got a job at Capital Holding. Davidian, Aegon, I don't even know if the company still exists, but Commonwealth Insurance had a long history. So I did actuarial work for 4 years, passed 3 exams. And you couldn't call yourself an actuary until you passed 5 exams. Well, I didn't pass 5 exams, and I found out very quickly I didn't want to call myself an actuary. Then I moved into the nonprofit executive world. I went on to work at the Lincoln Foundation here in Louisville. Anybody know Sam Robinson? Dr. Sam Robinson? Dr. Sam Robinson can't go anywhere in the city and mention his name and people not raise their name and say Robinson. Dr. Sam Robinson taught me everything I needed to know that I couldn't learn in the book about being in the nonprofit world. He took me under his wing and groomed me to be a nonprofit executive. And I was supposed to succeed him at the Lincoln Foundation. He told me, he said, well, you can't have my job until you get a doctorate. So he sent me back to school at the University of Louisville. I enrolled in the Urban and Public Affairs program, their PhD program, worked on a PhD in policy analysis and evaluation, and was writing my dissertation and ready to succeed Dr. Robinson at the Lincoln Foundation when I got a call from a friend of mine. You all might know him. His name is Wynton Marsalis. Anybody know Wynton Marsalis? So Wynton said, hey, we're building this $250 million facility in the middle of Columbus Circle. We think you could help. Why don't you come and hang out with me and come to New York and work? Went home and told my lovely wife of 31 years, Cheryl, I said, hey, I just got offered a job to go to New York to work with Wynton Marsalis. We have 4 children. At the time, we have an adopted daughter who's 13. The only reason I say she's adopted because she's 41 now. I'm not old enough to have a 41-year-old child. We had a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 1-year-old. And she had this look of despair on her face, but she said, hey, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we packed up the kids, we moved to New York. I did that for 7 years. I started out as the director of administration, became the chief financial officer, and then eventually became the executive producer and vice president. After 7 years, it's like dog years in New York. I was there for 49 years. So I left and started my own company, Guestworks, where we worked with individual artists and arts organizations and did consulting all over the world. And I was doing a consulting project in Pittsburgh when I found out they were looking for a new CEO of the August Wilson Center for African American Culture. Threw my name in a hat, moved to Pittsburgh in 2010, was there for 2 years, had a 2-year contract, and I said to myself, why in the world did I go back inside? I decided not to renew my contract, and I looked at my wife and I said, well, what are we gonna do? She said, well, I didn't want to move to New York, we're going home. I said, okay, we'll go home. And I'm not gonna lie to you, in 2012, I did not want to come back to Louisville, Kentucky. I had been traveling all over the world in these cultural centers. I came back kicking and screaming. But the only thing that made it palatable for me is because I traveled over 150 days a year, so I was never here. So I'm going along from 2012 to 2019, having a ball all around the world until I came home because I didn't want to come home. And then I finally convinced my wife that, you know, when our youngest daughter graduates from college, but she just graduated in May of 2021, we're going to move to New Orleans. We're moving to New Orleans, we're going to get a place down in New Orleans. And I finally beat her down and she agreed. And then the pandemic happened. And then Breonna Taylor. And I was devastated like anybody else who was devastated, but I was devastated for another reason, because when that happened in my city, I started getting calls from all over the country, all over the world. People asking me, what's going on with your city, man? And I was ashamed, not at what had happened in the city, because I had turned my back on the city. And I said, you know, sure, we've got to do something. We got to stay here, and we got to figure out a way to get back involved and bring the resources that God blessed us with back to the city. So we decided to stay, and we bought our forever home, as Mark said, on St. James Court. And by the way, we live on the greatest one block of real estate in the entire country. I've seen a lot of it, nothing better than St. James Court. And we have the absolute best view of the fountain on the entire court. You don't believe me? Stop by, 1433, number 2. And as we were sitting there, a friend of mine sent me a LinkedIn message. I never go on LinkedIn. And in that message was a link to the job description for this position. I wasn't looking for a job, didn't want a job. But when I read it, it spoke to me so deeply and so clearly, because I understand from traveling the world for as much as I have, what the transformative power of the arts can do to heal not only individuals, to transform individuals, but to transform communities, to transform cities. And that's what they were looking for. They were looking for a leader to help transform the city from what had gone on through COVID, through what happened with Breonna Taylor and the social injustice and unrest, and for healing. So I threw my name in the hat. I think there's a couple of people who are on the search committee, so you all don't like what it is that I say, or I do blame them. And so when I got in the position, I learned a little bit about what was going on specifically in the city as it relates to the art. Now, before the pandemic, the arts in Louisville generated a little less than $500 million annually. $500 million because of the arts and culture in the city. They account for almost 18,000 full-time jobs and $350 million in household income. And then the pandemic happened. And the arts and cultural nonprofits lost more than $110 million in revenue. and the same organizations that generated all that at $500 million, they're now 40% smaller. And 61% of the creators who are working have experienced drastic decreases in their work. But despite all this, in the midst of all that, the artists in the ecosystem of this wonderful city came together to support the community through things like pop-up concerts at hospitals and senior care facilities, delivering art kits to children at home, non-traditional instruction alongside JCPS teachers, and elevating Black artists and their stories to advance racial understanding and justice. And after all of that, I'm proud to say on behalf of our city that not one single arts organization was lost in the midst of all this. Despite all of the challenges of the last year and a half, the Fund for the Arts was able to award over 600 grants this year. Through these grants, we supported over 148 community SIM schools and community centers and 139 arts, culture, and culinary institutions, as well as 512 individual artists. And this year, under the leadership, as our fiscal year closed on June 30th, under the leadership of my predecessor, Kristen Boone, we were able to raise over $8 million of our campaign goal. It was chaired by Campbell Brown, and our goal was $7.5 million. And I started in June going on a listening tour, and I officially took over on July 1st. And in that listening tour, I sat down with a lot of people inside and outside of the arts ecosystem, and I kept hearing one thing over and over and over again. One thing I would hear when I sit across with someone, they would say, "I used to be." And I'm like, what's going on here? They would say, "I used to be. I used to be an actor. I used to be a musician. I used to be a dancer. I used to be a poet." They knew they were talking to the guy who's in the arts, and they would always start the story out about what they used to do, what they did when they were younger. And I would correct them. I said, "Oh, no. You didn't used to be anything. You are an actor. You are a musician. You are a poet. Say it out loud with me," I would say. I would stop them and say it. Say it out loud. "I am an artist. I am a musician." And they would say it. And so after hearing this repeatedly, the next staff meeting I had with our staff, we went around the table, and I asked every one of them, I said, "I want you to do me a favor. I said, I want you to say, 'I am an artist,' and I want you to say out loud what your art is." Every one of them went around the table and said, "I am an artist," and they said their art. Now, mind you, many of these individuals have been working together for several years. I'm the new guy. There were 4 flautists. 50% of our staff played the flute. And none of them knew it. How's that possible? Suppose if you found out with 4 people that went to Schenectady University and they worked in the same place for several years, and it's like, "Oh my God, you went to Schenectady too?" No, then you would know that this person went to where they went to college. They would tell you. It'd be on their resume, they talk about it. But somehow or another, being an artist, somehow or another, something was being put underneath a bush, under the tree that was being held, closeted about it. So I tried it again. I was at the Next Gen board. I think we have some Next ambassadors, alumni in the room from our program Next, where it trains up. It's a program that young professionals come in and get prepared to be able to get on arts organization board. I did the same thing at the board meeting. I said, around the room, say I'm an artist and say what your art is. 50% of the room had MFAs, a Master in Fine Arts. No one knew. They've been in meetings with each other on Zoom the past year and for years. No one knew. How is this possible? How is it possible for you to have an MFA in poetry and no one know you're a poet? And it dawned on me that we live in a society, we live in a culture that beats the art out of kids. It tells them that, yeah, you need to get serious about life. You need to find something where you can go and make a living doing it. I was telling, there's a very well-known, I'm not gonna tell you their name, CEO in this town. And I had the same conversation. The whole I am an artist. And as I was saying it, this person's physical demeanor viscerally changed. And after I said, say it out loud, I'm an artist. Tell me, obviously you have an art. I see something's going on. And they told me, they said, I was a singer and a guitarist, and I got admitted to a very prestigious music program out of high school. But I also got a scholarship for sports. And because I couldn't afford to go there, my parents made me take the scholarship for sports. And I said, well, do you still play and sing? No, only for myself. How is this possible? How is this possible? Why is it, how many of you all play golf? Why is it that nobody's telling you to stop playing golf because you're not gonna make it in the PGA? You can get up on that crazy fantasy of getting out on the golf course and doing something, because I'm sure no one in you is good enough to play at the PGA. Give it up, stop. You're wasting your time and everybody else's time. You need to do something out here that can be productive, make life more productive for the city. Do something else instead of spending all daggone day on the golf course. Nobody's told you that. What they actually did tell you, even though you might be terrible at golf, is that you can get out on the golf course and you can actually make a connection with someone and network and forward and advance your career. So no matter how horrible you might be at golf, you're out there because there might be an opportunity for you to advance your career. So I was telling this story to Teresa Carpenter-Beans, who is the president of KMAC. How many of you all know KMAC Museum? It's beautiful, beautiful music. So I'm telling this to her. And she says, you know what? We're going to start a program called Connecting Over Clay, where we're going to ask artists who don't make a living doing art to come and network over clay, like they do on the golf course. I said, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Why don't we have activities for artists to come together who don't make a living doing art? Y'all ain't making a living playing golf either. Don't make a living making art, to come together to network and share their art. Why do we not do that? Well, she's going to do it, and I'm going to make sure as a part of my plan that we do that for as many places that we can, and I want all of you all to support that. It's this true, crazy, false dichotomy that we put out there in the universe for children who have decided that they are artists, and say, no, you need to be serious about that. I had another instance, very well-known executive, I can tell you who they are. Meeting with them at the end of the meeting, they said, hey, I know you're an art guy. I asked you a question. My daughter, we thought she was going to be a doctor. She went to the Z, Emmanuel. Now she's over at Emmanuel. She got bit by the acting bug. Now she wants to go to conservatory and acting school. And he started this line of questioning with me, which led, I knew exactly what he was trying to get to. When she fails as an actress, what are the other things that she can do in the arts ecosystem? Keep her close to the arts. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? There's no profession in the world where you have to deal with rejection more than being an actor. For every part they roll, you gotta have thick skin. For every part you land, there's 10 that you get rejected for. I said the last thing your daughter needs is rejection from you and your spouse. Support her, embrace her for who she knows herself to be. And I told him the story that I'm about to tell you. My oldest son, his name is Winston. He was named after the pianist that Wynton Marsalis was named after, Wynton Kellystone, yes. And I named him actually 3 months before I met Wynton Marsalis. He was born 3 months before I met him. And I wanted him to be a pianist, so I introduced him to piano. He took to it like a duck to water. As a matter of fact, I had to punish him by telling him he couldn't play. That's how we got through to it. And he went on to get a bachelor's in classical composition from Boston Conservatory, and then he moved to London and he got a master's from the Royal College of Music in London, and now he lives in Lisbon, where he's writing music. He plays in a rock band. He's getting a PhD in history. He's writing screenplays. He's doing everything that his little heart can content to be an artist. And when he was 9 years old, we were on the road with the Jazz and Lincoln Center Orchestra. And we were backstage in some city in the middle of the country. Whenever we were on the road, he would always find a piano wherever there was one, and he'd play until he couldn't play anymore. So after the concert, one of the board members from the organization where we were performing that came back, and my son is just playing away, he's doing his thing. And the gentleman comes up to him and kind of stoops down to his level. He says, "Young man, you sound great." He says, "Do you want to be a musician when you grow up?" I looked at him and said, "What do you mean? I am a musician." And that day didn't really resonate with me until many, many, many years later, 2018. I remember that story. Remember what happened. And I called my son up and I said, for the first time in my life, and I've been paid to write, I was able to say out loud, I am an artist, I am a writer, I am a storyteller, because I understand something now that is a lesson that I didn't get when you said what you said when you were 9 years old, is that you've always known who you are. You just have to find a way to make it in life, being who you are, not what somebody else says you should be. I know who I am. And I wouldn't be standing here in front of you as the CEO of the Fund for the Arts if it hadn't been for one line in the job description that I saw that really intrigued me. And you know what that one line was? It jumped off the page and wrestled my eyeballs to the ground. It said that in this position, you will serve as chief storyteller for the arts. It's like, I knew that. I'm a poor fundraiser. Horrible fundraiser. Well, I can tell you a story about how great the arts are. And so now, here's what I want you all. I want you to find the closest mirror. Not everybody run to the bathroom anymore. And if you don't have a thing for mirrors, if you pull your cell phone out, turn the camera around, look at it, and say to yourself, I am an artist. And then say what your art is. Because I know we got some artists in here. I bet you 75 to 80% of this room are artists. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go and find some young person who has actually said to themselves, I am an artist. And I want you to support that person in who they are so that they can find a way to make it in the world being who they are. Support them. And then I know we have the business leaders in here. And then I want you to do, if you're not in person, and find a table to get around with your team, your staff on Zoom. And I want you to do like I did with our staff, just go around and I want everyone to say, I am an artist, and say what the art is. And then I want you to support those people in being who they are. And you know what will happen when you do that? And the morale in your organization will go way up. The bottom line of your organization will go way up. And these numbers that I talked about, $500 million will eventually, if everybody did what I just said, starting with yourself, dealing with the kids, and then dealing with people around you, this $500 million will be $1 billion before you know it. My name is Andre Kimo Stone Guest, and I'm an artist.
Okay, Andre, so let's do it. How many of you are artists? All right, want to yell out your art?
I'm a dancer and a musician.
Okay, who's next?
Singer and dancer.
Singer and dancer. Next?
Poet.
Go ahead.
Poet.
Poet. Next?
I'm a poet.
Poet.
I'm a storyteller.
Storyteller. Next? This is awesome.
I thought I was a golfer, but
Yeah,
Singer and guitarist.
guitar. Yeah.
Visual artist, painter.
Painter. Next.
Poet, storyteller, and musician.
Poet.
I think
But I would include two. I think all of it. Where's Chris Whale? Oh, come on.
Writer, singer, and I play the blues harp.
Right. I'm trying to get him to play for us sometime.
The new one, I figured I could add. I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, as I mentioned, guitarist, painter, musician, sound, production, writing. I love all that.
Look at all this selling. Okay, yes.
Right for your old boogie woogie blues piano.
We gotta get a piano with you. You know that, right? Oh, wow. Anybody else? I am an artist, Masters of Fine Arts, Theater, University of California, Davis. So I'm an actress, director, wow. So you were right. The first thing my parents said was, oh, what's your fallback plan? And the fallback was journalism. Right. When you were a kid growing up in the West End.
Slow down, wait a minute now, man. Slow down.
Slow down, okay, slow down. What was your exposure to the arts and what impressed you most?
You know, what's funny is that my grandfather who passed before I was born was a visual artist. I really didn't have a lot of exposure to the arts. It wasn't until I was a teenager where I would go to the barbershop. I had a hot top fade back then. I've never done it like it now, but I was, had a lot more hair. But I used to have to get my hair cut every 10, 11 days. So I'll go to the barbershop, Laura's barbershop on Hancock and Jacob. And Leon, who was my barber, wouldn't come down. He lived above the place. He wouldn't come down until 6 o'clock. But if you got there at 6, you wouldn't get out there at 10 because that would be like the 8th person in the night. So I would go at 3 and wait. And his father, who was in his 80s, owned the shop, and he is like a stereotypical barbershop. He and his cronies were sitting around playing checkers, but they would listen to Bill Bailey on WFPM at 3 o'clock, and they would have jazz come on. And I would say, I hate it. I was like, man, when they turn this off, turn WLOU on. I wouldn't do that. But these old men, they would talk about the jazz and such, with such reverence that over a period of time, I fell in love with music. And they took me by the hand and they taught me about it. And I became a fan of jazz, and I named all my children after jazz musicians, and I ended up getting a career in jazz, all because I had to wait to get my hair cut.
How do you, and Rotarians, if you have questions, please, the mic is that way. Feel free to ask any questions. So then how do you inspire children to become engaged and appreciate the arts?
All you have to do is expose it to them and take down any of the pretense about what it is and what it isn't. Art is, at its most irreducible essence, art is the expression of the human condition. Everybody in here used art during the pandemic, during the isolation, to be able to cope with it, whether you realize it or not. It's your art. The world needs your art. And when you put your art out there, everyone will gravitate to it. That's the same thing with children. Encourage them. It's not, being an artist and not being an artist, just encourage them. And one of the things that I've learned when I thought about this is that most of the quote unquote professional musicians, the people who make a living playing or doing art, are not there because they have some special God-given talent that it was predestined for them to be there. Many of them have parents who were artists that did not beat the art out of them, right? And so they saw a pathway that even if it didn't turn into something that you could make a living doing, art is a thing that you can make a life doing. And that's what we need to do, is we need to make a life doing art. I told my son, no plan B. The world needs your art.
Larry.
Hi, I'm Larry Sloan, Larry Sloan Sales Company, retired. I am an artist. I played the classical and flamenco guitar when I was young. I still have a guitar, and I keep saying I'm going to get to it again when I'm old. I'm already old. I'm like 80, so
Make us all a promise you'll pick it up tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'll pick it up, but I gotta get those calluses back. But anyway, what you've been talking about children, I don't know anything about this, so I'm asking a question in ignorance, but when I was in school, I went to public school in Indianapolis. We were taught art appreciation, we were taught music appreciation, Is that being done nowadays in our school system? Because you're talking about children, and that would be an ideal place to really get the exposure.
Yes, one of the things that we do at the Front of the Arts, we work with Jefferson County Public School Systems. We have a program called 5 by 5, where we try to get in the first 5 years of elementary school, at least have one experience a year for every student in the system. There are scores of other things that we do inside, but yes, we are doing our best to make sure that children are exposed to the arts.
Andre, coordinated through the Kentucky Center, there was a program which I hope is still going called Arts Reach. Is that something that the fund supports, or do you know?
That sounds familiar, but I don't know. Do you know the answer to that? Do we still do Arts Reach? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, one of the objectives of that program is to do much of what you're saying, and that is to employ individual artists to go out into, in our case, community centers, and I think schools as well, and actually pay them a stipend for that,
Yes.
so that you could get a broader outreach of the arts.
I don't know if it's still, but we do that. We
Right.
do make sure that there are artists that are going into community centers and going as a program called Schools Out Arts In, or after school in the summer that we're doing a lot of the same things.
Excellent.
Well, Andre, thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate the presentation. Please come back. Don't make Oops. I think I have some guests here that I didn't introduce. Are they here? My guests from the Owsley, the Second Brown Foundation. There you are. Hello. They are Osha Crowley Sherman, who is the Director of Policy and Development, and Regina Blake, Chief of Staff, the Owsley Brown Second Family Foundation. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on that. I'd now like to invite Jane Mallory, Executive Vice President of Marketing and Business Development of Image Quest, and Chair of the Membership Committee, to the podium to introduce a new member.
Thank you, Gene. Always a great day when we're introducing new members to our club, right?
Yeah.
Would Mike Norman join me on the stage? Right. So Mike moved into the chief executive role at Kentucky Science Center in March of 2020. Good time. I was gonna say it, but good sidekick here. Having previously occupied the chief operating role, sorry about that. Mike is married to Holly, a nurse with Baptist Healthcare and father of 2 sons attending the University of Louisville. In addition to spending time with his family, Mike enjoys hiking, biking, and golf. Got another golfer in the group. Don't give it up. He's a native Louisvillian holding 2 degrees from the University of Louisville and is a proud graduate of Jefferson County Public School System. Mike's been very active in his church and served on the board of several community organizations, including St. Matthew's Area Ministries and Shawnee Christian Healthcare Clinic. Mike's sponsors are Kathy Knotts and Craig Mooney. So let's give a warm welcome.
Thank you for your leadership, Jay, with the membership committee, and welcome to the club, Mike. Make yourself busy, get on the committee. Would all Paul Harris fellows please stand? And would Mike Kull come to the podium to present 2 Paul Harris pins, please? Mike Kull is a retired food service executive, chair of the Rotary Foundation Annual Fund, past governor, past president, recipient of the Lifetime Service Committee, a Paul Harris Fellow, and charter member of the 1912 Society.
Thank you, Gene. Paul Harris Fellow recognition is given in appreciation to anyone who contributes outright or cumulatively a gift of $1,000 or more to the Rotary Foundation and Rotary International. Multiple Paul Harris Fellow recognition is extended at subsequent $1,000 levels. Today, I would like to invite Paula Harshaw and Irv Mays to join me on stage. Paula is retired as the CEO of Central State Hospital. She is a member of the 1912 Society and the Paul Harris Society. Paula is receiving her Paul Harris +8 pin today. Herb is a judge at the Kentucky Court of Appeals, and he is receiving his Paul Harris +3 pin today.
Thank you both. Will the new members and the Paul Harris fellows please come to the stage after the meeting for pictures, and then you can socialize with everybody, okay? Thank you. Now I welcome to the stage Steve Eggers, Chair of the Service Projects Committee, to the podium for an update. Steve is Principal of K. Norman Berry Associates Architects PLLC, past Club Director and a Paul Harris Fellow. Steve.
Gene. Also want to recognize Jan Grayson, who's the Vice Chair of the Committee, Service Projects Committee. Well, today I've got some good news and some not so good news. Good news is we've had an abundance of worthy projects that have been submitted this year. Many are repeat efforts of projects that we've done over the years, such as scholarships, excuse me, Rotary Promise program. But a lot of new projects this year are from the Community Impact Committee. There's, for those of you not familiar with it, it's a major thrust last year. We had was divided into 6 subgroups, and a number of those subgroups have produced projects for this year. Highlighting just a couple of them, the education project. It's going to be a joint project with Junior Achievement and the NAACP. It's going to be a really new cutting edge project in conjunction with JCPS. Luke Schmidt really led the whole CIC effort, but he was also involved with the housing component. And their committee has come up with the West Louisville Housing Initiative. It's a major sort of game changer potentially on a national basis. So he's working hard to pull that together, but that's been requested this year as well. Health, in terms of health, the Hope Wellness Center project we funded last year. It's a clinic in the West End that's been requested additional funds. Also, the Shawnee Dental Clinic is going to be was requested funds. In case you wonder how we come up with a number for the program, Rotary Fund, Rotary Foundation, I should say, identifies the value that we can put towards new projects. It's based on a formula or a percentage that is drawn down each year. We also can carry over monies from the previous year. Like I said, that's the good news, that we've got lots of projects. The bad news is that we don't have enough money to fund every project as it's been submitted. I've been able to talk to a number of chairs, and we've been able to reduce the scope of some of those projects to get more in balance, but we're still short. So I wanted to make kind of a last minute deal. We're going to be meeting probably early August with the Rotary Board as well as the Rotary Fund Board to really make our recommendations, and then they will make the ultimate decision on how to allocate funds for this year. So what I'd like to do is basically suggest that anyone who's interested in making a specific pledge to send a check into the Rotary office, put down in the memo that it's for a service project, so we can be sure to identify that as a separate donation. So with that, I thank you, and look forward to getting lots of checks.
And now, Will Green, owner of Vanguard Cleaning Systems of Louisville, will provide today's announcements.
So I haven't really met everyone that I joined during COVID because Greg Braun wouldn't leave me alone. Oh, he's in the back. All right, here we go. We have two great events happening next week that you won't want to miss. Our next Business Synergy Networking event is on Tuesday, August 3rd at 5 p.m. Mike Richardson and the Glenview Trust Company will host this event with food and beverages. All right, at their new headquarters on Highway 42 and provide a tour. It's a massive, beautiful building if you haven't seen it. There will be a brief talk with Bill Stone, Glenview Trust Company Chief Investment Officer and CNBC contributor. Please bring your questions. What a great opportunity to bring a Rotary prospect and see a real Louisville gem. On Saturday, August 7th, our club will cheer on Louisville City FC when they take on Sporting KC2 in the new stadium for Rotary Night at Lou City. Tickets for the game are $32 each and seats are in section 220. The event is open to Rotarians, their family members and friends. Greg Braun also wanted me to say that we have quite a few tickets left, so please sign up. I'm a season ticket holder. It's amazing if you haven't been. It's truly a world-class facility and something very unique to Louisville. And we didn't build a massive stadium and have no one in it. It's actually a full house, so a lot of excitement. Save the date, service project on Saturday, September 25th at 9:30 a.m. In 2020, our club was instrumental in the installation of a community landmark known as the Louisville Nod sign located at the corner of 9th and Main Street. It's bright orange. It is not maintained by the city, and we are meeting there to give it a quick wash and wipe down, pull a few weeds, etc. Everyone is welcome to join in the fun. A 600-gallon water truck will be there, and everything else we need is provided. All we need is you, and you can contact Greg Braun if you have any questions. Greg was my sponsor here. Next week's meeting, and also on September 25th at 12 p.m., there will be an ice cream social. Kevin Fields is providing the location for our ice cream party at the Louisville Central Community Center at 1300 West Muhammad Ali. So add this to your calendar. Next week's meeting will feature guest speaker OJ Oleka, president of AIK-CU, which is the Association of Independent Kentucky Colleges and Universities. The title of his presentation is "To Lead is Human, the Important Stories of Leadership." We appreciate you pre-registering your attendance in advance and indicating if you plan to have lunch. Please use the link provided in the RSVP email that was sent out to membership or scan the QR code at your table. Please note that reservations do close Friday at 4 p.m. This is a deadline at the restaurants requiring, not Gene, so please respond with your intentions by tomorrow. The meeting will also be available via Zoom. Who needs another Zoom meeting in their life? And finally, we got a lot of birthdays. To all Rotarians celebrating birthdays this week. And I've got about 12, so here we go. Hugh Schwab III, July 29th. Cindy Collier, July 30th. Gary Dryden, July 30th. Alan Parnell, July 30th. Maria Smith, July 30th. Paul Bickle, July 31st. Tony Newberry, July 31st. Alan Singleton, July 31st. Carl Thomas, August 2nd. Yeah, I can see it. Charlie Kastner, August 3rd. Bob Connolly, August 3rd. Matt Ayers, August 4th. And Griffin Meredith, August 4th. I think they should have a joint party together. They're all pretty close. Back to you, President Jean.
Birthday people here today? Any birthday folks here? Okay, here's your song, all right? Let's do this. This is your birthday song, it isn't very long, yeah! Time now for the business card lottery. Now, if you guys don't play, you can't win. So how many business cards? So, Lady Sophia, what are we gonna do when you go to school? Can you just like drop out of school and come and be with us on Thursdays or Rotary or now at the we got more cards today. Who's this? Alice Bridges. All right, and before we go, we wanted to say, this is our executive director's very last Rotary meeting. Alyssa, can you please come to the podium? This lady has just shepherded us through probably, it has got to be the absolute worst year in Rotary Club history. And she kept us all together, all engaged, and all having fun. So you're, wanna tell us what you're doing? Come on.
This is not my gig. I'm behind the scenes. I don't believe this. I am actually headed to the DEA. I'm going to be the coordinator for their division control program.
As a member, so thank you so much. All right, Rotarians, again, the What is Rotary table is in the back. Don't forget your QR code. Go do good work and have fun doing it. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.